I'm John White. Today we're going to be talking about some garden tips that have come in on our mail system, email, and written letter, and one of them is from John and Deming, and he wants to know why some of the shrubbery is beginning to develop some brown leaves and stuff on it. And what we are seeing this time of year, John, is probably the effects of the summer heat. Maybe some poor cultural practices might be in combination with it here. We're looking at kind of a sickly Indian hawthorn, Rhaphileptus. It's experiencing a lot of burning on the leaves, which is an indication that it's not receiving enough water or something is affecting the water uptake on the plant. So when you start to see these kind of symptoms, it's usually a water-related problem. So what we're going to do is go ahead and kind of dig. This is kind of on the extreme, but we are going to go ahead and take this plant up. So we can actually see what's going on here. You can see it came up fairly easily. And we'll knock some of the dirt off here, and we can see that this has a large root that has grown across the front of it. So it has a girdling root. You can see the kind of rounded shape. So this plant was probably planted as a 1 gallon way back when, and those roots just never have left the root ball. And this girdling root should have been cut off way back early in the plant's life, but you can see how that has grown right over the top, and it's squeezing down and stopping the water uptake into the plant. Plus the roots just aren't leaving this area, so they're staying kind of tight within that area. So you're just not getting real good water penetration through the root ball here. So that's a problem. Again, best attacked when the plant is planted. Those circling roots need to be severed when the plant is planted, or pull them apart and then plant the plant correctly at the right depth, and a lot of times you can avoid that problem. So that's kind of the quick and down and dirty on that, but a lot of times just getting down into the soil where those roots are at and seeing whether those are actually picking up moisture or whether the soil is dry, because if it doesn't have a girdled root, it still may have a problem with getting water into the root ball. So, but the best thing to do is to dig it up and check it. So that's our problem for that. Another letter we had is from Cindy here in Las Cruces, and Cindy writes that she has a lawn area that has several dead spots in it, and she's been watering and they just don't seem to go away, and what might be the problem. Cindy, one of the things that we have with dead spots can be a couple different things, and then you kind of take care of them as a process of elimination. So an area like this has been watered, the ground is wet, so we're going to dig into it and actually do an inspection here. And you can see here in this soil, it's wet on the surface and yet dry down in the soil. And a lot of times our soils can be what we call hydrophobic, where they resist water rather than take on water. So this can be a highly compacted soil where water just physically can't get through it, or it has some kind of electrical charge that repels the water off of it rather than accepts it. And so good aeration, breaking the ground up, will help sometimes to bring the moisture in. It can be done as simple as taking a screwdriver and just aerating some areas. If they're larger areas, then you may want to consider renting an aerator and doing a whole area. But a small area, you can simply do it with a screwdriver or pitchfork, something like that. What you're getting is breaking up some surface area. And then what I like to use is just a dish detergent. I like to use it somewhere about a tablespoon per gallon. So I have 2 gallons of water here. So I'm putting 2 tablespoons of dish detergent. Mix it real good. And if your soil is hydrophobic, a lot of times when you go to put the water on, the soap actually helps the water to absorb into the soil and to be accepted by the soil and cling onto it better. So as you can see, some of the water's starting to penetrate better. But a lot of times this is a trick that'll help you get through it. So you just want to keep it, keep an eye on it, keep checking it. But a lot of times it's just basically keeping the ground worked and wet. And once you get it wet, then it'll continue to take soil easily. But if it goes on the real dry side, then possibly you can be back into the hydrophobic soil condition. So this is something that we see in yards and lawn areas here in the southern part of the state. So when you go to take your sprinkler and you first start to put water on the soil, if the water tends to beat up on the surface rather than immediately soak in, that's probably the initial signs that you might be on the start of a hydrophobic soil. And again, using a surfactant, commercial surfactant or a soap solution will help you get through that initial hydrophobic condition. So hopefully that has helped you, Cindy. And again, today we've talked about some of the questions that callers have. Use the address at the end of the show and send us some more questions.